After reading Berserk for the first time in the summer up until now, it was one of the best pieces of literature I've ever read. Down to the finest detail about the characters, inking, speech, and plot, everything seems to fall into place so perfectly. And in this video, I will share with you all my experiences with reading Berserk for the first time. I'll be breaking this video down into three parts: plot and pacing, the diverse complex characters, and finally the world building and themes. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the video. If you haven't already, join the Discord down below. First up we have is the storyline. I mean, for seinen, it honestly can't get any better than Berserk. We see around 4 arcs, 5 if you count the Black Swordsman arc, and in each one of those arcs, the readers keep getting an abundance of new information to take in every chapter, to the point where it's not overwhelming but in line with the pacing of the story. First, if we take a look at the Black Swordsman arc, the amount of story building put into these few bits helps out the story extremely going further. I believe this is because it sets up the world of Berserk and how it's unfair and unjust to every single character. The poor gets abused and the people in power keeps exploiting. It actually forces the readers to open their mind to the harsh realities of the world from the very beginning, and it honestly does hold up well. We see at the start the main character Guts pleading for answers and ravaging for revenge against a man who readers know little to none about at this point, which we later find out is a demon named Griffith. The story keeps progressing at a likable pace. I enjoy majority of the time, especially when we get to the first real arc, the Golden Age arc. This arc left a bittersweet taste on the mind of many readers, including me, because of how good it was. This arc sets up the whole story and connects back to the Black Swordsman arc, as we find out Guts has been branded by Griffith and will forever be in pursuit for him due to Griffith sacrificing all of his loved ones for his selfish goals. As the story transpires into hell at the end of the Golden Age arc, we find out that Griffith becomes femto, and I find myself torn between Griffith and Guts. I was rooting for Griffith all this time. His lifelong goal of becoming king from the lower class people was so inspirational, to say the least. It was so admiring to see for many readers, including myself. His backstory of sacrificing his comrades from a very early stage of forming his mercenary group was just sheer beauty. The way Mira illustrated all the dead bodies and Griffith standing on it was pure greatness. The plot from this point was unmatched and was very well thought through. Arcs like the Conviction arc and the Millennial Falcon were not even close to being a letdown as well. Seeing Guts at such a vulnerable point in his life after the aftermath of the eclipse made me feel helpless in a way, because Guts, being a protagonist, he's always viewed as a strong beast on the battlefield who has tough skin that never cracks, and for him to lose all his friends really troubled me. Seeing Guts at a loss puts this hopeless nature into the reader's hearts that we can't really seem to shake off until Guts goes back on his journey to improve himself. After the Lost Children and Binding Chain chapters, Guts is back on track on being this great swordsman who still has heart at the end of the day. When he reunites with Casca, it makes Guts realize he has prioritized other things over the person he truly cared the most for. He understands he isn't like before when he was a teenager. He has Casca to take care of now, and abandoning her is as if he abandoned himself. Not long after, one of the greatest villains in anime appeared back in his human form, Griffith. This time in mind with the goal of finally completing his lifelong journey of becoming a true king with his grateful kingdom. If we go a little bit deeper into the Millennial Falcon arc, it is by far the longest arc with 131 chapters that spanned it all the way from 2001 all the way to 2010. I do believe this is one of the better arcs and is better than the Conviction arc, only because the new characters we are introduced to actually have meaning due to the character development within this arc. An example of this is Ferranci. The way Mira was able to show how someone could do a full turnaround and start living life the way they want to is unparalleled to any series. Not to mention how amazing the introduction was to the Berserker armor and how it was designed. Once put on, you will lose all sense of emotion and pain. Moving on to Griffith though, he forms a new band of Falcons and ends the war between the Kashan Empire and achieves peace within Midland with Princess Charlotte, who many thought was dead. This actually leads up to the Fantasia arc where it's from chapter 308 until the latest chapter. And this is where we see the story kind of comes to a conclusion with Mira passing away and another production team taking the manga on. The Fantasia arc is still fresh in my mind because it's the arc Berserk is currently on, and it covers the Elf Island chapters, which I thought was amazing. When they finally retrieved Casca's old memories, I was just in awe of the moment. Majority of the manga is spent with Casca being innocent and careless, and for her to regain her memories of Guts and others who have taken care of her up until now was such a feel-good moment. I remember thinking to myself of how pleased Guts was knowing that Casca got her memories back because of how worried he was when he was told that it had to be her choice to get her memories back. After chapter 364, we roughly get 13 chapters, and it starts off pretty decent with Griffith taking away Casca. And just like that, Guts' peace of mind escapes him once again because of his former leader Griffith. This time, Guts' mental health is destroyed dramatically compared to any other time Casca was taken from him. We get multiple chapters of Guts in this shocked and depressive state where it's hard for him to contain himself knowing he can't do anything this time to save Casca. With the Elf Island being wiped out, the Kashan take Guts and his companions to the capital, where Guts is imprisoned due to caution. Daiba then informs the group that it was Griffith who wiped out the Elfum Island and plans to wipe out the Kashan Empire and has started to push towards its borders. And this is due to the wider campaign for Falconia to take over the world by the leadership of Griffith. At this point, it's clear that the storyline and pacing in Berserk is one of the best in seinen, from the slow build-up to climactic moments and fast pivotal pacing during the Eclipse and the Kushan War. It makes Berserk all the better. Berserk's storyline has developed a narrative between fantasy and reality in such a way where readers are able to understand the philosophical concepts and themes by reading through Berserk. And now that we're done with that, we can finally move on to the complexity of individual characters in Berserk. I want to take a look at Guts first, as he's the protagonist of this amazing story. Guts suffers between rage and his humanity, and simply to put it, the rage consumes him the more the series progresses, to the point where we get a beast of darkness because it's the manifestation of Guts' wrath and bloodlust. This mystic animal was born from the trauma and experience from the eclipse. When Guts puts out the Berserker armor, the beast fetish reshapes itself to reflect it. The beast is intended to show how dark and negative Guts truly feels at times. Hate, anger, malice, and revenge are all the emotions that tie up to make this beast. Not to mention, the beast also represents Guts' attraction towards Casca in a lustful way, and tempts his Guts to force himself onto her when she is helpless. One of the most disturbing scenes in the manga is when we see the beast ripping Casca into pieces, urging Guts to rip her to shreds the way Griffith did. It's much more shocking when we realize this is all Guts' emotion shaped in a form, and for him to want to take advantage of Casca the way Griffith did was so uncalled for. The Beast of Darkness tries to force Guts at times to accept his dark side and take advantage of the powers that come with it, but Guts refuses to go down that dark path. It sees Guts' new allies as enablers for his humanity, and doesn't like that one bit. The beast tries to suppress his emotions of hope and tries to make Guts kill his allies, but rather the readers see Guts trying his best to run away from his negative emotions, as it consumes him at times when he sees Griffith or fights an apostle. Guts deliberately controls his tendencies for revenge by purposely protecting Casca instead of looking for revenge constantly towards Griffith. The beast can somewhat be good when Guts extracts a painful attack on his enemies who pose a threat to his friends and Casca. But when it comes to the cause where we don't know if he can come back without Shirika's help, with a struggle like this, Guts continues to embrace both the bad and good emotion as he deals with this daily but uses them to create a somewhat better relationship with Casca and keeps on struggling for the betterment of his character. Next up is Griffith. From what I've seen so far, Griffith's complexity as a character is up to par with Guts in many different ways. I first want to look at the contrast between Griffith's vision for a perfect world versus reality. We all know at this point he has an obsession with ruling his own kingdom at any cost. Griffith wants to create an ideal kingdom as it shapes his character from the very beginning, and would preach to Guts from time to time of how much he wants his dreams to come true. But the way he goes about achieving his goals contrasts the perfect world he wants to create. Griffith manipulates his way to the top in order to succeed. He's willing to risk the life of others and himself to get closer to his goals. His cold ways shine through when he realizes after getting tortured, his goals cannot come true with his limitations as a human, so he makes the ultimate goal to sacrifice his mercenary group. What stood out to me the most is how willing he was just to give up his friends to achieve his goal. He would really do anything to become king of his kingdom. From the outskirts, he gathers very strong-minded people to join his mercenary group. And in the group, almost everyone admires him in different ways. Some people praise him for his strength, charisma, and abilities to strategize against his enemies. But they were all unaware, including Guts, that Griffith only viewed them as a piece in a puzzle. Although he doesn't make you feel that way, he uses this uncanny, disturbing ability to make a person feel so special and dear to him, often using that manipulative strategy to get others closer to him. Next up, I want to look at the irony behind his character. After the eclipse and the reincarnation, Griffith built his own kingdom called Falconia, where humans seek refuge from creatures from the astral world and look at Griffith as a savior. Little do they know, Falconia was built on the bloodshed and sacrifices to those who trusted Griffith. People within the kingdom enjoy their peace, but at the cost of not knowing the full truth. Griffith only cares about himself. He doesn't even care about the people within the kingdom. He just cares about the kingdom itself. This makes me believe that Griffith is a narcissist that actually defines himself in Berserk. He always believed he was destined for greatness and that others were always below him, but he would keep those same people close to him so he can use them as pawns later on. This self-centered mindset leads him to control the masses. He acts like he cares for others, but he's only in it for himself. Lastly, for characters, I want to talk about Casca, specifically about her PTSD. Casca's condition truly worsens when she does lose her memories. She doesn't even want to get close to Guts, as one of the witches on Elf Island said he brings fear to her mind. The series does not shy away at all from protesting long-term effects of trauma, and similarly like Guts, he also has trauma, but that doesn't make up for his whole character. Rather, for Casca's situation, it ruins her completely. She can't even look at Guts the same. She's unable to look at him in the eye without being reminded of the pain she endured during the eclipse. Her struggle to retain her identity from the pre-eclipse arc has become the most significant narrative pushed in the later Berserk arcs, such as traveling to find her and keep her safe, to performing rituals and making her remember who she truly is. This slow process of Casca regaining her memories shows you just how much trauma she suffered during the eclipse. What Griffith did to her was no excuse and, for lack of better words, hurtful and a cowardly move. Casca's character's growth is stunned for more than 250 chapters just because Griffith took advantage of her, and that isn't fair to her. Although for the recent chapters, we see Casca slowly healing from all the mishaps in her life. Her recovery isn't instantaneous and probably won't be for a while, but for her to have a strong independent mindset, just like the Golden Age arc, shows how tough her character really is. Last up is the theme within this manga, but in this case specifically the one I deem important for readers to take in when reading the story. What I think was the big one was the cycle of revenge and hatred. The first time we see this cycle start is after the eclipse, when Guts wants to extract revenge on Griffith for what he did. He destroyed Guts' life and those around him. Just when Guts finally gets close to others and opens up to them, Griffith takes everything away from Guts. This betrayal by Guts' former ally causes him to want to seek revenge immediately, leading him to take down any apostle that stands in his way. He gets consumed by all this violence that comes with this. Bonding with Guts also becomes harder because of this, as he really can't trust anyone anymore, and it's like this for some time. That is until his friends come around at the end of the conviction arc. But to some extent, it always feels like no matter how much Apostle Guts defeats, it will never be enough. Guts can never truly escape from his past. The more he fights these demons, the more he stays in the past, and the more he suffers. This cycle isn't just for Guts alone. Griffith embodies a cold, calculated antagonist. His hatred is not aimed at nobody specifically, but to himself, due to the fact of how weak he was. Griffith actually starts this cycle in a way, as he's a part of a group that manipulates humans to reach their desires and leave their weak form, creating apostles who seek and destroy and punish others. This duality highlights how both characters continue a cycle that can never be broken. Even up to the latest chapters, where Griffith takes Casca, he drives Guts into a vengeful state once again. Both characters are on the opposite side of the cycle of hatred, sworn together by their inseparable powers they have and malice towards each other. And guys, that basically wraps up my experience with reading Berserk. It would be greatly appreciated if you guys can join the Discord down below. We have lots of Berserk fans there, and you guys can just talk to each other and talk to me also. Another reminder to subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so please subscribe. I'm out.